Okay, so we're inside Unreal now. This is just the kart template physics, the kart physics template from ue4resources.com. Great website, but hopefully, we'll potentially be using something else. And anyway, what I'd recommend you do for this project is in your content folder, just right click and create a new folder for like the name of your, let's say the name of your level. So we're just going to call this like desert map or desert map, who knows. And then inside of there, we'll just create a bunch of like new folder for like meshes, materials, and blueprints for now. Oops. New folder, meshes, mats, and BPs. Good to be organized. And this way, if we want to share and maybe collaborate, maybe send each other's levels across and put them onto one game, that'd be amazing. Imagine that. So having it all in one map will be able to help us keep it all organized. Okay, so let's start by actually just creating a new level. I'm going to create a blank template level and scale this up a whole bunch. Cool. And in the blueprints folder, I'm just going to drag in the basic pawn car, and in the section on the right, let's just auto possess it as player 0. And now in theory, if I press play, it should drop and play and work as per usual. And then, all right, cool. So let's get to the good part now. Let's actually make a road now we're set up. And I'm going to go to my desert map, and I'm going to go to blueprint, and I'm going to create a new blueprint class, which I'm going to call road spline. Let's go BP. And let's open that up and begin setting up our road spline. So again, remember for this project, we're mostly going to be using road splines, but because we're going to have hopefully an interior and an exterior setup, some parts will be done as a more modular design. The interior sections, like if you imagine Bowser's Castle, the outside section where you're driving around will be sort of like the spline section, and you'll jump into like Bowser's Castle, which will be a modular level. But anyway, we're going to set this up in a construction script, and there's just going to be a bunch of code that we just need to put in just to get this working properly. So we're going to start with a for loop, just a regular for loop will do us. And inside that, we are going to want a spline. So I'm just going to tap in spline into my components and get a spline. And we're going to want to drag that spline reference in here. Now we're going to say get length of spline. And that length, we are going to divide it by. So let's divide it by a right. If we right click this node here, we can promote to variable, or remember, we can always create variables over here on the right hand side. But I'm just going to be, I like this little shortcut. Promote to variable, we'll just call this length. So this is the key variable. And setting this up right, getting this right is going to be the magic. Getting this set up right. So I'm just going to put 600 for now. But we'll need to play with that number later on, is essentially what I'm saying. Anyway, now we've got the information, we can truncate it and put it into here. In fact, I think you can literally just drag it and then truncate anyway. Good old Unreal, auto converting things for us. Alright, so now inside the loop body, here's what we want to do. We're going to want to add a spline mesh. And it's going to say, hey, what mesh do you want? Well, we've not actually imported it yet. We will import it shortly. Oh, shall we import it now? No, that'll be fine. We'll leave it for now. We'll import it in a minute. We'll come back and set this up. Okay. Anyway, so here's what we're going to want to do next. We're going to want to get our index. So remember, spline, this starts at 0. So for each spline point, we're going to want to add information, but we're going to need to times it by our float. So int times float of our length, which we can just drag and drop onto that point. Cool. Yes, happy with that. We're also going to want a reference again to our spline. So I'm just going to hit a spline, and then I'm going to say get location distance along spline. And I'm going to drag you into there, and I'm happy with that. oops, man, it's lagging a bit because it's compiling shaders. And you know what? We are going to want a similar thing, but this time we're going to want a tangent. Get tangent distance along spline. And just like we did before, happy with those. Boom, boom, boom. Drag you guys into there. Nice and easy. Okay, now the reason we've got these is because we're going to need to set up our mesh. So, going back to this part up here, I just remembered we need to set collision. So, set collision enabled. Yes, we want collision. And then off there, we're going to want a set start and end. Set, start, and end. But we need to reference it first, John. So drag off there and say set, start, and end. So this is going to control how our spline works. So we've got all these values which we need to set. And we're just going to drag you into there and drag you into there like that. Sweet. Okay, but obviously we can't have the start size just the same as that. So we will actually quickly want to clamp it. So let's quickly clamp the vector size and set this to our length. And don't worry too much if this doesn't make much sense to you. Hopefully as you see it run and see how it works, it'll make a little bit more sense then. But anyway, now we've got these, what we can do is duplicate them, because don't forget we need two more over here. So let's just grab all of you and then Control W and drag you down here. Or you can, Control C, Control V. And drag the splines back in to the relevant thing. And I think, so now we just need to get the next point of the spline. So let's grab off you again. So instead of doing this before we do the times, we need to actually just increase it by 1, essentially. So so remember we're getting the for how many loops we're running this, we're getting the next one along, because that's going to be the target point for that one. So we're plussing that by 1, and then we're going just like we did before. Just going to grab you and you. Plonk you into there, plonk you into there, you into there, and I think once we've wired everything up, come on computer, you can do this. Just drag you over here to make it quicker and easier. You. Okay, sweet. That should be good to go, but remember we've not added that mesh or materials in yet, so let's quickly import them. So I save mine to my desktop. The scale you might want to change and sort of set up differently. Yeah, create materials, that's fine. So I'm just going to import those. I'm actually importing the texture as well, which we should have probably created the textures folder. But for now, I'm just going to be lazy because I'm a lazy person. And drag you guys into my materials folder. Move here. Okay, so let's grab you back, and now we've got our road spline. We can type in road test, or the name of whatever you called it. There we go, and hit compile. Here's where we're going to want to set up our materials, and you know what, shall we have a quick look at those now? So you can actually sort of get a preview of what these are like. So I'm actually going to drag my red as to where the green would be. So we've got like the red and the white. This part is going to be based on my texture. So I'm just going to go back to my mats, right click, and create a material like this. We could, do we need to set things up? We might need to change things on that, but we'll figure it out later. Drag that into U. Let's just hope that we get the UVs the right way around. I think we did. That might take a minute to show up, so let's just close that for now. And then that's updated on here. So I think we're good to go. Let's actually drag it into our world and start. Did I close Photoshop? I didn't update my road thing, it's fine. So I'm going to drag my road spline in. And my computer's not going to be happy about it for a minute, but you can see I'm just actually going to just move it up 1. So I've not got that overlapping. So I'm actually going to just click this second dot. You see this second dot here? And what that's going to allow me to do is start dragging out my road. So I'm just going to drag like that. You can actually sort of see how it's placing things once those shaders are compiled. Will be good. And now I'm going to hold Alt, so click off and create another point. And I'm just going to do this a few times and create myself like a loose bit of a track. Oops. And then loosely sort of put that there, more or less. Okay, so now this is set up. It's worth remembering that this is works off a Bezier curve, which you can see here. So I can actually drag these around. I can change like the rotation a bit, and so like it doesn't actually look brilliant there. Oh, come on, computer. So what I could do is make sure it's highlighted. Try and zoom in a little bit if my computer will survive. And I can right click the spline and say add spline point here. So you can see now we can still edit it and make it a little bit smoother and a little bit nicer as it's going around. And again, on our levels, we're going to make sure we've got an interior and exterior, so we're not doing a closed loop. But for this sort of sake of test, if you want to, what you can do is you can try your best to sort of get these matched up. Now, a bit of this will depend on moving some of these arms around. So I'm just going to get this arm and sort of shrink that down a bit over there. Move that spline point. So do you know it's not as got a steep corner. Try and put you loosely where we want it. Oh, it's just so laggy right now. So click this point. I'm just going to move the arm a bit like that, so it's not too bad. Oops, that's moving the whole thing. Now, again, depending on like what number you've got this sort of set to. So remember we were talking about that length earlier. So this is potentially something that you could mess about and see if you have this problem, you could see if changing this number makes much of a difference. So instead, let's try 400 and then compile it. You can see that sort of cleaned it up a bit. So you might, especially once we can start to see our UVs, we'll see a little bit more of that. There we go. And again, that might take a bit of tweaking and a little bit of messing, but remember, we can edit this track at any point and get this looking quite nice. Again, remember, it's built off like Bezier curves and everything. We can, oops, look at that corner's terrible. You know, you can tweak this up, you can sort of set this up and change it however you want to. we've added like tangents, so you can get a little bit of rotation that way, but you won't be able to rotate it that way. But there you go, that's the road. Hopefully you can sort of tweak with that, you can work that a little bit, and really we want to see what the texture is going to look like. Let's make sure we can actually drive on it. Ooh, it's very thin. It's a thin road compared to our car. Cool, so it's working all right. What we need to do though is, I just need to wait a little bit for the shaders to compile. So I'm going to pause here for a second so we can actually see what it looks like with the road attached. Okay, so the shaders are compiled enough for us to actually see the road, and it's all right. It's all right. Obviously, the texture is very poor. I should have spent a bit more time in Photoshop, or at least saved the updated version. But you can tweak that, you can change that as you're going, and so it looks all right. But like I say, depending on the complicatedness of your texture, this one's not too bad. You still see the seams a little bit, and it looks all right. But again, this might be a case of where you might need to mess with that length number a little bit. You know, just tweak it, because when you change it, it's going to probably have a different effect on how much your image is going to be repeated. So you can get that length looking just right. Another thing you could do with this, oops, not 600. I think that's like, depending on like how you go with this, the higher the number is going to give you a pointier sort of corner. So you might not actually say want to go to like 600, even though it makes your texture look a bit better. You might actually want to just do that in the material itself. So you can open up your material and you could edit your material directly by just doing the texture coordinates and multiplying the increasing the U or the V channel. And I think that's pretty much everything. Oh yeah, we said it was a bit small, so we could just get the whole track. Oh, let's just times it by 2, like that. So now it's in. Track should be a bit bigger, so just increase the scale on it. Let's actually get ourselves on the track, and if the shaders weren't, if my computer wasn't chugging so much, we should be able to drive around on this and get a bit of a vibe for how it works. Alright, not bad. Look at that. Not too bad. Cool beans. Alright, on to the next one.